Hello, in this video, we'll basically talk about modularity in Terraform. What is Terraform? And I will also walk you through with an example how it is achieved in Terraform. So, supposedly, I will give you a scenario, right? Supposedly, you have 1,000 lines of code. How will you analyze that? If some problem occurs, it will be very difficult for you to identify the problem first because it is 1,000 lines of code, right? So, basically, here comes the modularity in picture. Modularity basically helps us to break down infrastructure code into reusable, self-contained components known as modules. Why it is called reusable? Supposedly, if you want to create an VPC, right? So, in traditional approach, what you will do, you will write your code in your main.tf configuration file, right? Supposedly, if you want to create multiple VPCs, right? So that will basically be a repetitive task for you, right? So for in that scenario, what you can do is you can create a module for VPC, which also you can use for other projects also, where you want to create a VPC, right? So that helps us to basically encode reusability, and also there will be no repetitiveness in your code. I will walk you through that through an example. Supposedly, I will start with the 0. I will first of all create a directory here named, say, Terraform modules, Terraform, or say Terraform 4, right? Then I will go inside that directory. As you can see, there is nothing in this directory. Then what I will do is I will create a modules directory, right? Then I will go inside that modules directory and first of all start with creating module for a VPC, right? I will go inside that. Okay. So here will basically I will start writing the code to create a VPC or say a configuration files to create VPC. First of all, I will create a variables.tf file where I will be defining the variables for to create a VPC. So basically, I will be needing I need to define two variables to create a VPC. One should be VPC name. I should also write descriptions for it. I should write name of the VPC. And I can also give the type for the VPC what type. It is a string type variable, right? Other variable which I will create is the named CIDR block, right? These things I need to parameterize while creating a VPC. One is VPC name and other is the CIDR block, right? These two things I need to parameterize while creating a VPC. That's why I'm creating two variables to do that, basically. So I have created my variables.tf file for my VPC module. I will save this. Then what I will do is I will create my main.tf file for my VPC. So I will use a resource block to do that. To create an VPC, the resource type name is AWS VPC. As you can say, I can give this name main. This main basically is used to refer this resource in this configuration file. It has no other meaning. This EIDR block I have parameterized. As you see, I have defined that in my variables.tf file initially. I will also set this to true so that instances in my VPC will have DNS resolution support, and I've also set this to true so that my instances in my VPC will have host names, and I will also give the name for my VPC which I've also parameterized. Uh, what I showed you earlier in my variables.tf file, right? Now my main.tf file is have been created. Now basically while creating I currently I'm creating a module for my VPC. After that, I will be creating a module for my subnet, right? So for that, I will be needing my VPC ID. So I also need to create an outputs.tf file so that I have my where I will output my VPC ID so that I can use it while creating my subnet. I will show you later how it is done, right? So first of all, I need to create my outputs.tf file. Uh, the output variable name I can take as VPC ID. I can also give a description for that so that I can know what it is used for. The ID of the VPC, and I also need to give the value for it, what value this will take. So basically, this is the resource type name, and this is main, which I gave the name main.tf file for this resource. Basically, this has been created. I need to copy and paste here so that I have my outputs.tf file ready. So yeah, as you can see, my PPC module is completed. Now what I will do is in this module directory, I will create my subnet module, right? I will go inside that and mostly the procedure will be same. First of all, I will be creating my variables.tf file. Then I will be creating my main.tf file using that variables. Then my outputs.tf file so that I can output something I want. So basically to create a subnet, I will parameterize three things. First will be VPC ID, in which VPC this subnet will be created, and the subnet CIDR block obviously, and subnet name. So basically I will be defining three variables here. So first what I will take is VPC ID, right? Oh, I've taken the name of the variable as VPC ID. In description I can give this the ID of the VPC to create the subnet in, create the subnet in. Type I can give is string type, the variable type, and the other variable which I'll be creating is for subnet CIDR. You can give it any name. I can give it this name so that it becomes easier, like to say more understandable, right? The description I can give is CIDR block for the subnet, and the type is string only for this variable. So basically, the other variable which I need to make is subnet name. Basically, I'm creating three variables because I need to parameterize only these three things for the subnet. You can give these name, any name you want, but here I'm taking these names so that it becomes more understandable, right? It becomes easier to understand. Okay, variables.tf file is completed for my subnet module. Now what I will do is I will create a main.tf file for my subnet module, which will be, oh, sorry, must be, okay, I need to, main.tf file I need to create. So basically, I will use a resource block here. And the resource type name will be AWS subnet. I can take the main name here also, it's not an issue. What I will do is I will as you, as what I showed you earlier, I created three variables, right? One was for VPC ID, other was for subnet CIDR block, and other one for subnet name. So these values I have parameterized. So I will take these as variables, right? Other one is CIDR block, subnet CIDR, what I have defined in my variables.tf file. Obviously, for your subnet will be created in an availability zone. So I need to define an availability zone here too. And I need to give, I will be also giving this value here, right? So basically what this means is when your instances will be created in this subnet will be automatically getting an public IP. I will be also defining in tag block so that in that I can define my name. I've also parameterized my subnet name. You can see this is now completed my, as you can see, this is now completed my variables.tf file, and my main.tf file is completed for my subnet module. As you can see, I've defined three variables here, and I have used these variables here. How will I pass these values? When I will be creating my actual main.tf file, I will be using this modules and passing these variables values too. I will show you later. Give me some time, right? So basically, I'll be also creating an outputs.tf file here that I will be basically using in my actual main.tf file just to basically have my subnet ID and VPC ID. I will show you that. So yeah, I will be creating outputs.tf file. So basically, yeah, the output variable name I can give is subnet ID. You can give any name, but it will be more understandable. That's why I'm doing the same. This is basically the ID of the subnet, and the value I can give here is I can. This is basically the resource type name in AWS main. Where does main come from? I can show you where this main come from, right? If you check my main.tf file, as you can see, this is the resource type name, and this is the name I'm using basically to refer the resource in my configuration file, right? That's why I'm using this main keyword here, right? Now I think you can understand it better, right? Now I can just copy and paste here. You can see I have created an output variable. Right now, till now, what has happened is I've created two modules. One is for VPC, another is for subnet. Now, basically, what needs to be done is how will be I using these modules? And what I said you earlier, if you have multiple projects and you want to create a VPC and subnet, you don't need to write the code again and again. You can use these modules, right? So basically, and now I will show you how basically these modules are used. Basically, that's a main goal now because we have created one modules, right? So I will be creating a main.pf file here. So the keyword we will be using is will be module, and the name of the resource type name I'm taking is as my VPC. The source I will be taking is my modules. Then I gave a name called VPC, right? Uh, as you must remember, while defining the VPC module, I defined two variables in variables.tf file, which I used in that main.tf file for VPC name and CIDR block. So I need to pass basically that two variables while referring to one module, right? Basically, I'm using this module, right? I can show you first. I will give my another variable. So basically, what happens is, I think now the picture will be much clearer. So basically, you can see I'm using a module here, right? Why am I passing these two variables? As you can see, just a second, I have my modules directory here, right? Inside that, I have my VPC directory, VPC where I've defined my, as you can see, I have here given defined two variables, right? VPC name and CRDR block. So while referring to this module or using this module, I need to pass these two variables so that it will these values will go here actually, right? These two variables I have defined by in VPC module, and these are used in main.tf file. So basically, that's the basic idea. And while defining the using the subnet module, I need to have I have defined three variables. One is for VPC ID, the subnet name, and the subnet CIDR. So while creating or say using the module for subnet, I need to pass three way parameters, right? The source I can also give here, the modules, subnet, yeah, okay. And I need to pass what actually three. You must have also remember I in outputs.tf while creating the VPC module, I also created an outputs.tf file so that I can get the VPC ID which I will be using here. I will also show you this. The name of the variable which I took was VPC ID. I will show you in my outputs.tf file because while creating the subnet I need to have my VPC ID and I also need to pass the subnet CIDR. Let's go back to it. Right. Name. Subnet name I can take is my subnet. So basically I've passed three variables parameters while using my subnet module. Why am I using three? Because while defining or creating the module for subnet, I defined, you can see I defined variables dot df. I defined three variables. So I need to give values for three VPC ID, subnet CLR, and subnet name. As you can see, I have given values for that. Why am I? Because I was outputting the value from here. Basically, I used this module and in the while defining the VPC module outputs.tf file, and now I created or basically had an output for my VPC ID which I'm using it here. This is basically the resource type name, and the output variable name, right? Which I'm using it here. And supposedly, if I also want to output the VPC ID and submit ID after creating it, I can also create a value variable for that. Output variable for that. The value it will take is module dot my VPC ID exactly. And while, as you must have also remember, while creating the subnet module, I also had in outputs.tf file, I defined an output variable 2, right? Which was basically having value of the subnet ID, right? What you need to do is my subnet and the name of the variable was subnet ID. So yeah, so basically this will be this is the actual main.tf file. So I will paste it there. Yeah, as you can see, I have first of all what I did is I created two modules. One was for a VPC, another one for subnets. I parameterized these things, and in my actual main.tf file, I used those modules. As you can see, I didn't write the actual code for my VPC and my subnet. I just used those modules. So in that way, what you can do is you can easily use those modules and make your work much easier. You don't have to write your code again and again. So yeah, basically that was our main purpose. So